are listening to the Jboy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
My goal was to run through his soul and grab his heart when I run through his soul. Kurt, Nate, Coach Dab, those are memories.
I think we've established ourselves as, I think, the premier conference in college football.
Now, the SEC is better at the top. It's better in the middle.
The Southeastern Conference remains the premier conference.
Now takes the snap. Looking for the receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkland. Touchdown, Auburn!
Think about it. It's always been the SEC and everybody else trying to catch it.
I think this is probably the best league from a competitive venue standpoint.
Most capable teams. You just look at those programs, the way they recruit, how they invest.
Snap to Burrow. 3 steps. Fires. Back corner of the end zone. Over the shoulder catch. Did he hold on? He did. Justin Jefferson. Touchdown, Tiger.
And now, your host, Jboy.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of the Jboy Show, the Monday edition. Really excited to have a co-editor and national writer of D1baseball, a guy that is as plugged in to the baseball world as you will find, and that is Mr. Aaron Fitt. Aaron, really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
Definitely. And let's jump right in it. You know, I want to talk some SEC baseball, but first, I kind of wanted your thoughts, and I've actually been thinking this because the draft was a little bit shorter. Do you think with the draft being shorter that the quality of teams this next season, obviously, because this is the only time the draft is like this, will be a little bit deeper in the bullpen and at the plate?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there's a lot of players who are coming back now as juniors or even some seniors, but especially quality juniors that would normally sign that are going to return to school this year. You know, and of course, I think also you're going to see more higher profile high school guys show up on school as well.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of those guys still got drafted in those 5 rounds, but you know, the next tier of guys, a lot of times, you know, clubs will still make a run at some of those high-profile high school guys after round 10 and throw them 6 figures, and that's no longer an option. So I think we're going to see more of those guys show up, and you're going to certainly have more quality juniors return to school, which is going to make, you know, all these teams are going to be deeper, and it's just a matter of, you know, how those roster crunches work out. It's nice that there's eligibility with the roster cap, but there's still only 11.7 scholarships to go around. So it's going to be tricky for coaches to navigate.
Yeah, and that's something, obviously, you know, Ron Polk was big against it and the scholarship argument for college baseball. Is there something you think, Aaron, and I know this I'm asking you to, you know, stare into your crystal ball and see the future here, but do you ever see that scholarship number increasing past what it is now, where the lottery is not as much of a factor on who goes where?
You know, I think you're starting to see a way that could happen, and that way is the Power 5 conferences kind of doing their own thing and deciding they're going to throw their weight around.
Yeah.
You know, because the rest of the country doesn't particularly want to spend more money on scholarships for baseball, but certainly the SEC does.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that the ACC and Big 12 also would, if they had the opportunity, and the SEC kind of led the way with that. And, you know, certainly I think at that point the Pac-12 and the Big 10 would get on board. But really those 5 leagues drive the boat in college athletics, and you know, the SEC already tried to get more scholarships, at least on a short-term basis for this year, and they failed. That was voted down.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, you know, the way things are going, those leagues have so much sway. And if they decide they want to invest more in baseball, and they've all spent a lot of money, all 5 of those leagues have spent a lot of money on coaching salaries and, you know, and facilities, some more than others. And so clearly they're committed to baseball. And so I do think that that's the path eventually, is to just for those power leagues to not let the have-nots hold back the whole sport.
Yeah. And with where college baseball is, Aaron, and you're a guy that has been around it, you've been through, you know, you've seen the growth, and you've seen where it is now compared to where it was. With all of these things, and obviously your opinion carries a lot of weight, do you think we are at the golden era of college baseball right now, as opposed to 20 years ago? You know, you had the gorilla ball and hitting all these home runs and everything. But, you know, I look around the SEC and the country, and I see the pitching talent and the way that teams are starting to take a more professional approach with their roster. Do you think at this time right now, obviously coronavirus excluded, is probably the best time to be a college baseball fan?
Yeah, I would say no doubt. If you look back at the history of college baseball, the game has never been in a better spot than it is now, notwithstanding the coronavirus.
Yeah, taking that out of it.
Yeah. But I mean, this era for sure. I mean, just look at the money that's been spent. Follow the money, right? That
exactly.
kind of tells you the state of the game. I mean, you've got a lot of coaches now making 7-figure salaries as head coaches, and guys making very comfortable living as assistant coaches. And look at the giant palaces that are being built in Starkville and Gainesville and Lexington. I mean, a lot of those are SEC locales, of course, but other places too. I mean, there's a real commitment to college baseball, and the reason for that is because the game is doing well. It's driving a lot of interest, and it's still not a revenue generator at a lot of places around the country, but I think you can see the blueprint for how to make it that. And maybe one way for that to happen is to move the season back, like there's been some talk of doing, and playing it in the summer so that it's actually, baseball season during baseball weather.
Exactly.
Starting in the middle of winter time. I do think that would really help unlock the full potential for college baseball, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Aaron. And every target I look at is pointing towards that way, and kind of narrowing our focus on the SEC. Obviously the SEC is one of, if not the top conference in college baseball. I know obviously it's super early. We didn't even have a season this year, but just from what you've seen of the teams that have players coming back, and I'll use Auburn as an example. You have Stephen Williams and Judd Ward and Cody Greenhill and Jack Owen. Is there a team in the SEC or multiple teams in the SEC that you think have benefited more from this short draft than others leading onto next season?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn is certainly on that list. You're right. I mean, to get some of those guys back, the names you mentioned, I mean, had this been a normal draft with 40 rounds or even a 20-round draft, I mean, Jack Owen wouldn't be coming back to school. Greenhill wouldn't be coming back to school. I mean, Ward, Williams, I mean, all those guys would be signing now. They're still going to lose some guys. I mean, certainly Tanner Burns and Baylor Horn are two key pieces that won't be back. They'll have some seniors sign, like Ryan Watson, who I think just signed today, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot to like about that team. That was a preseason top 10 team for us. And it's a little different when you take out Burns and Horn, but I mean, that's a team that I think did benefit from the shortened draft. And certainly, Florida and Vanderbilt are going to be loaded next year. Florida really benefited from this shortened draft. And to get Tommy Mason, Jack Leftwich back, plus Christian Scott, who's got a really big time arm in their bullpen. I mean, he would have, I think, been a candidate to sign as a draft eligible sophomore in a normal year. So there's a lot of players coming back for the Gators that ordinarily would definitely not come back. So I think Florida and Vanderbilt are, one of those teams is going to be preseason number 1 next year, and the other one will be preseason number 2. I think that's the way it's shaping up.
Exactly. And it's going to be a race to chase those guys. And actually speaking on the point we had earlier, Aaron, because I don't think maybe a lot of our audience doesn't realize how much a state lottery does help with scholarships. I think Vanderbilt is a perfect example. Is there anything you can kind of give us just how much of an advantage that is, whether you're Georgia or have somebody that can use that money basically to take the place of lack of scholarships?
Yeah, any way that you can supplement your 11.7 is certainly really important. And in Vanderbilt's case, it's not lottery money; it's their institutional.
Yes, that's what I meant in Vanderbilt. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, academic-based aid, and there are other schools that do that really well too. Public, some public, some private. And if you look at like a UVA or North Carolina or a UCLA, they all use institutional aid pretty well. Need-based financial aid. Stanford exceptionally well as a private school. But, of course, then you've got the state schools where, it's much cheaper to go to school there,
it is.
But a place like Georgia, where they do have that lottery money, or LSU, it is a big advantage versus one of the Mississippi schools, one of the Alabama schools, where you're just kind of on your own with the money that you got. Now, fortunately, again, it's not that expensive to go to those places compared to some others, but it's definitely a disadvantage recruiting wise. I mean, fortunately, the state of Mississippi has other things that they can sell. The fact that that whole state is college baseball crazy, and they can pack 12,000 people in there and have the best game day atmosphere in the country at Ole Miss or Mississippi State.
Yeah,
that's what they're selling, and that's pretty appealing to a lot of kids also.
Definitely. And again, you hit the nail right on the head. And for a second, Aaron, I'd love to talk about, because I think there's a direct parallel in SEC basketball and SEC baseball, especially over the past probably 5 years. The coaching in the league is at an all-time high. I mean, you look everywhere across the SEC in baseball. Alabama just hires Coach Bohannon, who's going to do a great job. Can you just for a second, Aaron, talk about the depth of coaching in the Southeastern Conference in baseball and what that means to a program?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, every school has a really good coach, an accomplished coach for the most part. I mean, guys that have, at the very least, recruited at a very high level in previous stops. Like a guy like Brad Bohannon, you mentioned, hadn't been a head coach before in Division I, but he recruited so well when he was at Auburn.
Yep.
Before that, certainly when he was at Kentucky. His track record is just very impressive. And anyone who follows college baseball closely knows if you're out on the road at a big event or a small event, you're going to run into Coach Bo somewhere. He just knows all the players. So it was a great hire, and I think Missouri made a great hire with Steve Beasley. I
agree.
A guy that's just a very quiet, calming presence and just an intense guy that I just think knows the game so well. And just an outstanding developer of talent and instructor of baseball. Which is a little bit of a different approach than like the Tony Vitello model or the Brad Bohannon model, where you just go out to get the most dynamic recruiter you can. Now, you can, I think, win with either one of those approaches. Tony Vitello's made a huge turnaround in Tennessee in a hurry. I mean, they were in a regional last year for the first time in 14 years. It's kind of amazing. So even those programs that had been kind of afterthoughts for a while now, Alabama, Tennessee, Missouri, are no longer afterthoughts. And, in Kentucky, I know they scuffled the last couple of years. Before that, I mean, they're not too far removed from being in a super regional,
Yeah.
I mean, and they have a brand new ballpark. There's a lot to like about that program. If Nick Mingione can get that thing jump started again, it's just so hard to make headway in this league.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you look at a place like South Carolina with all the tradition that they have, all the winning they've done over the years, facility and the fan base, and they've scuffling over the last 5 to 7 years, which is weird to think of. And I thought this year they had a chance to be a lot better, and they kind of stumbled out of the gate a little bit. But now you look at a team like the Gamecocks, that's another one that benefited from this draft. They're going to be darn good.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will.
They got a lot of pieces back that they certainly would have lost in normal years. So it's just going to be a battle royale like always.
That's a great way to put it. It's funny. I never thought, and I played college baseball in college, followed it. I never thought in my life I would say that South Carolina is going to be sneaky good this season.
Yeah.
It's something I never thought I would say that, but I do. Before I let you go, Aaron, just a couple more. I want to talk about facilities for a second. You're a guy that's been around, you've seen it, you've been to these parks, you've been to these games, and you look at, some of these schools that Auburn just went to Omaha. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of facility upgrades that they need. Florida is another great example, a team that's won a lot. Florida State's another great example. And then you look at the cathedrals in Starkville and Oxford and that some of these other people are building. At some point, don't you think the SEC, it's going to be cathedral after cathedral everywhere you go?
Yeah, that's the way it's headed for sure. And Florida's finally building their new ballpark.
Yep.
It's going to be one of the most expensive and nicest parks in the country. Kentucky, as you mentioned, I mean, that place is beautiful. And that used to be, I guess, the worst facility in the league. Maybe Missouri. Missouri is the one that really, really lags behind everybody.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They got to do something out there, way behind. I mean, Tennessee needs to do some things too. They're toward the bottom. I would say Missouri and Tennessee are the two worst now, but Tennessee's still a good deal better than Missouri.
Yeah, it's not a good look in Missouri.
No, it's not. But I mean, it's only a matter of time.
It is.
Like you said before, all those programs are going to have themselves a beautiful palace, and right now I think because I love Auburn's park too.
It's beautiful. And I really mean like the hitting facility underneath, not the park. Obviously Plainsman Park's beautiful and all that stuff, but there's so much more, and you know this better than anybody, that goes into the training that you don't see on the field, in the cages, in the weight room and stuff like that.
and that's the latest thing that Arkansas is spending money on. They already have one of the best ballparks in the country, and now they're, opening this beautiful new ridiculous facility for the players. And I mean, that was the last thing they did at Ole Miss too. They had already had I think one of the best game day experiences in the country, like Arkansas, but now they have this giant indoor facility down the right field line, and it's huge. I mean, it'll blow you away.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the next level that everybody's doing is the player facilities in addition to the fan facilities, and you're seeing more and more of these programs kind of have the whole package.
Definitely. And before I let you go, I just, as a guy, I'm a baseball aficionado. I know you are too, and I know you probably have some great stories. Just from all the time, and this is a tough one, but all the time that you spent covering, and I could take a guess, and I think I'm going to know who it is, but I want to hear what you say. Who is the best player that you have ever seen just throughout covering all of this? And I was going to guess Mike Trout.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I ran into him in high school. I didn't see him, as much because I cover more college, but that's a good one. I remember talking to scouts about him, certainly when he was in high school, a lot of the Northeast guys. And it's funny, like the reports that we got back then, people liked him, but it was like, what is he? What is he the next level? I think he'd be like an Aaron Rowan type player.
Yeah, I like that. I like that comp.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, Aaron Rowan, that'd be a nice player. And you look at him, it's like Aaron Rowan. Like,
yeah,
he really is. That's what he is. But for me, and I think I give a different answer to this question every time I'm asked.
Yeah,
I will say this: from a pitching standpoint, the answer for me is easy, and that's Stephen Strasburg. At San Diego State was just at a different level as a college pitcher.
Yeah. Was he legit 103, Aaron, at San Diego State? Was he legit 103?
I never saw that.
Okay.
I mean, I think I saw definitely 100, maybe 101.
Yeah, I had just heard he touched it a few times, and that's just really hard for me at that time to believe.
Yeah, and I still don't know if I necessarily buy that.
Yeah,
because
that's unreal. That just, and people don't. And Aaron, I know because you've been around it, but I try and tell people you really don't understand 90 until you sit in the box. And then to understand 90, you'll never understand 100. You'll never understand it. You just close your eyes and swing. But at the end of the day, man, I think that's Strasburg, unbelievable. The Martinez guy, I think St. Louis has right now, has touched 102. I don't know if he touched 103, but that's just so unbelievably fast. But man, Aaron, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Really, I do want to ask you this real quick. Major League Baseball this year, do you think we're going to get that 75-game season?
I have to imagine they're going to work something out,
right?
And I know it's like every day there's some different story that comes out where you start leading one way or the other. There's just so much incentive to have some kind of a season, just for the long-term good of the game. Even if the owners lose money by playing in empty stadiums, I get it. It's not ideal for them if you have to pay the players and you're not getting all the beer revenues and all that stuff. But I mean, like, think of the long-term good of the game and get the damn deal done.
Yeah, you're exactly
what it could do. What it could do to baseball to have no season because these people are bickering about money. I mean, think back to 1994. That's back 20 years.
Yeah, that's and what upsets me, Aaron, honestly, as a guy that loves baseball, I feel like Major League Baseball missed a huge opportunity during this to, you have a sport where you're socially distanced to where, once you got the go ahead and do something and be on the forefront and go ahead and get that younger fan base re-energized that you worked so hard to capture after McGuire and Sosa. I just really feel like up to this point, and I hope they figured out Major League Baseball's dropped the ball.
Exactly right. But I hope they get it done.
I hope they do.
I think they'll get it done. Maybe that's just blind optimism, but I think they'll find a way to make it happen.
Definitely, I do too. Well, Aaron, brother, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're a busy guy. Let everybody know where they can find you because this guy does an unbelievable job. If you care about baseball at all, if you want to know what's going on with college baseball, Scott, any of that stuff, Aaron Fitt's the guy. Aaron, tell them where they can find you, man.
Yeah, D1baseball.com. We got you covered for everything you really need to follow college baseball. I mean, certainly during the season, we've got a great scoreboard and standings and stats, but also analysis and columns and podcasts, features, everything you need at D1baseball.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Aaron Fitt.
Definitely. Well, Aaron, again, thanks a lot, man. You do a great job, and we'd love to have you back on kind of later down the road once we start getting this thing kicking again.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
All right, Aaron. Be good, buddy. And that was Aaron Fitt, the co-editor and national writer of D1baseball. Yes, D1baseball, the mothership. Make sure you guys go follow him. Really cool guy, knows his stuff. Got some great stories, great analysis. If you have questions about, how you think Auburn will do this year, what's the SEC looking like outside of the SEC, they cover everything. Aaron does a great job, and he's definitely worth a follow. And appreciate you guys joining us. First one of this next new week. Tomorrow, we have Kevin Skarbinski, a former sports writer for BirminghamNewsandAL.com. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Remember, you can find us on Twitter at The Jboy Show. You can find us on Instagram at The Jboy Show. Find us on YouTube. Just type in The Jboy Show. Anywhere you get your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, whatever. Always got to give a shout out to Faison, Unbelievable in the Studio, and the Investor Brand Network. They represent us, the best PR firm out there. Hands down, it's not even close. So make sure you check them out at IBN.com. And make sure you check us out again tomorrow. And check us out on Twitter, because I think a recruit's going to commit pretty soon if you hadn't done it already. So again, thank you guys for joining us. And Jboy is going. I don't know where he is. Oh, he's gone.